If you're running a decent sized business, nothing else really matters, because if you run out of cash or you're even close to it, it's not a good place to be. Right. And so that's a trap that I've fallen into in the past. And then you just have to concentrate on acquisition. Like nothing else really matters, because, and it goes back to the cash thing, right? If you can't get enough clients and you don't have a really robust system for attracting clients to what you do, nothing else really matters.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Rexhen, and today's guest is James Whitaker, CEO of the Ambitious Exec, creator of the reverse job search method. James helps directors, VPs, and C-Suite leaders land better roles faster without gambling on job boards by engineering warm referrals, sharpening executive brands, and negotiating top-tier compensation. A former hiring director at Deloitte turned operator, James has built a proprietary referral engine that taps the hidden job market and puts senior candidates directly in front of decision makers. He is also the founder of the reverse job search method, a best-selling playbook that's helped thousands rethink how high-stakes searches are actually won. In addition to that, the Ambitious Exec is one of America's fastest growing companies, is 242 on number of the Inc. 5000. He's also the co-founder of Matchsticks Career AI, an AI-powered platform designed to help individuals calculate their career scores. And it's a pleasure for me to have him on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, James.
Thank you, Rexhen. Good to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on, James. So I wanted to talk to you about the Ambitious Exec and basically focusing on the coaching part of it. First of all, I wanted to go into the beginning of this. What inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I actually like to think of us as consultants rather than coaches. I think of the difference. A consultant is very results driven, right? So you have a process and you're driving towards a result. Because, I used to work at Deloitte for 10 years. I was an economic consulting director. Hiring director kind of was my side gig, as people that get to the senior level at certain organizations know. You spend a lot of your time doing that. And so that was really my inspiration for starting this, because the type of company that I wanted to work at, that I did work at. So Deloitte used to have, or when I worked there, used to receive 3 million resumes every single year. 3 million, right? And so it's probably even more now, I would imagine. And so that's a lot. And so you can't, if you want to break into an organization like Deloitte, there's more to it than just having a good resume. There's more to it than just, applying on a job board, etc. And so people used to ask me, either people I knew or people would literally just LinkedIn me and say, hey, you work at Deloitte. How did you do it? Or, for example, one of my brother's friends, he was graduating and he wanted to work at Deloitte. And so there were lots of these people that kind of started coming out the woodwork and asking me, how do you do it? And so I just started helping people just because I wanted to. And it was kind of a nice thing to do. And it got to the stage, I'd probably helped, maybe 5 or 6 people actually get hired into Deloitte and similar organizations, at which point I was like, maybe there's something here. Maybe I should take all the experience I've gathered from working at such a large organization. And I've got a chemistry degree. And so I had to do it myself in terms of breaking into an organization with a non-traditional background. And so that was really the genesis of why I became a coach / consultant.
And then we started with the Ambitious Exec, which has been around for about 7 years or so. So when it comes to the Ambitious Exec, we're focusing on directors, just like we mentioned on the intro as well. We're working with directors, VPs, C-Suite leaders, and executives. So the focus is on helping these executives either, and you can correct me here, either pivoting or going higher up the ladder.
So it's moving to a new organization. That's what we focus on. So that could be pivoting to a new industry. It could be even a new vertical, or it could be I'm going to stay exactly where I am, same industry, same vertical. I just want to get promoted, get paid more, work for a bigger company, etc. But the key is I want to leave my current company and join a new one.
Cool. And I want to go a little bit deeper into the ideal client profile for the ambitious exec. So we mentioned directors, VPs, C-suite leaders, executives, and I wanted to dive deeper when it comes to, is there a specific demographic, psychographic, industry, or is it industry agnostic? Are there some other commonalities or other common goals that you're typically seeing? Or is basically just people who want to switch to another company?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we naturally do have a certain demographic of people that we work with. And what's the main reason for it? I don't necessarily know, because we are industry agnostic. So we have people on our team who've worked at high levels in tech companies, in healthcare companies, in manufacturing companies. And so we have that experience. I think just certain people are more likely to want to invest in developing themselves. So, most of our people that we work with are in operations, revenue generation, or tech. It's funny, we do get quite a lot of HR people, which I find very amusing and awesome at the same time. Those people like, hey, I'm an HR expert, but I don't know what I don't know. So I'm happy to invest in this. So I think that's interesting. Industry wise, we get, a lot of people in healthcare, a lot of people in tech, a lot of people in kind of supply chain as well. But I think it's more so just because there's more of those people around compared to, a chief compliance officer. There's not that many of them, right? Compared to a supply chain director. So I think that's the reason. Now, that wasn't really your question, but I'm going to answer it anyway, was why do we focus on people at that level? Why do we focus on people at the director, VP, C-suite, president, those kind of levels? And the reason is because I've found that the job search is very different when you're early in your career compared to when you're later in your career, right? Or you're a more junior employee. You might have been working for 20 years, right? But you're a more junior employee versus a more senior employee. So, for example, if you want to work in a retail store, applying for a job on Indeed is the best thing that you can do. You want to just get your resume in front of as many people as possible, right? If you're looking for a VP of marketing role, right, and the retail store, there's 300 opportunities available to work on the shop floor, right? There's one VP of marketing, right? Companies aren't just going to just put a job posting out there, right? Unless they really have to, because they don't want to, for, all the reasons that people listening to this podcast will know about, right? Why executive level hiring is not typically done through job boards. And so really that's why we serve that part of the market, because the strategy required to get hired into the type of role you want is actually very different to what most career coaches, career development people are talking about, which are things like add this certain keyword to your resume. Your goal is to just smash your way through the applicant tracking systems, right? Your goal is to have the best resume, blah, 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 right? That's not the answer when you're at the senior levels. The answer at the senior levels is I need to have valuable conversations with the people that matter, with the CEO, with the board members, with the PE firms and the VC firms. Like that's what I need to be doing, not doing what the person who's just out of college is doing.
Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. So it's definitely a part of the market that needs a different type of attention, and it definitely needs more attention than the more junior part of it, which is something that they can figure it out. They can apply to as many jobs as they can. In this case, it takes a more like if I were to use an analogy here, at a junior role, you'd lose kind of like a shotgun approach. But as an executive, there's like a sniper approach where you're actually picking your targets very carefully. And so how is it like to work with you? And I want to dive into, for that part of the audience who fits this profile, what's it like to work with you? Is there a certain program of a certain length? Is it one-on-one coaching? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have different levels of we basically have the same process. We have different tiers depending on how much support someone needs, right? So someone, for example, if you've been unemployed for 6 months and you've got all the time in the world and you just want a process to follow, you don't necessarily need one-on-one coaching. You don't necessarily need someone to hold your hand and do some of the stuff for you. You're happy to do a lot of the heavy lifting on your own, but you want the process to follow. We have that level. At the other end of the spectrum, we have the level for, this really senior professionals who are like, I need the best possible strategy. I want to understand. It's not only about finding the people to talk to. It's about, I need a 30, 60, 90-day plan, for example. If I'm going to be the COO of an organization, I need to tell them what I'm going to be doing for the first 90 days on the job, right? And so they want coaching around that so it's around that kind of thing, right? That level of support is a lot higher. There's a lot more strategy that goes into it. Those are kind of the two bookends of what we do. And then right in the middle is what most people go for, which is a combination of learning, one-on-one guidance. We write your resume for you. We rewrite your LinkedIn profile for you, those kind of things. So we have that whole process that it depends on what level of support each person needs.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing that, James. And so another thing that comes to mind, and this will be a question that mostly other coaches who are listening are going to find valuable, is when it comes to marketing, and this goes to the research that I mentioned earlier, when it comes to marketing the ambitious exec and finding your clients, what type of marketing channel is working really well for you right now?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And so it's what I found, and this is not just coaches, but any business owner, you will find, I remember someone telling me about this. They use the example of a baker, right? You love baking bread. Mm-hmm. You open a bakery and you're not a baker anymore. You're a business owner, right? And your job is to sell bread, not make bread anymore. And you'll find that. And that's one of the challenges, I think, for coaches and people that like helping people. I almost never work with clients anymore, right? All I do is manage. I say all I do, but I manage the team who work with clients and focus most of my effort on finding new clients, right? And making sure that that pipeline of new clients and then existing clients are happy and they come out the other end with the result that they want. And so what channels work well? Today's world is all about attention. It's all about attention generation. And there's really two ways that you can go about that attention generation. There's either going directly to the people who are already thinking about the thing that you want to sell them, right? And so that is, for example, in our case, I'm struggling with job boards. I feel like I'm going to get fired in the next 3 months because there's been a merger. That person is that, they're in that place where they potentially want help. And on the other side, you've got that more broad attention where this is where influencers and stuff come in. It's like, I'm going to kind of talk to everybody, and then the people that are going to be interested are kind of going to rise to the top of that pile. So kind of long answer to your question, but the channels that work best for us are paid advertising when it comes to the person who's ready to go now, and then more kind of content-driven stuff on the other side when it's people who are broader. Now, we're not necessarily as good at that content stuff. I wish I had like 2 million followers on Instagram. I hate using Instagram and all those things, which is the reason we don't. And so talking to people who are thinking about scaling their coaching business, you kind of have to pick one because they're both hard. They're both hard to make work. You just have to become an expert. Like, I would consider myself pretty much an expert now at running paid media, building landing pages and stuff like that, not the content side. But there's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's just you have to become really good at something.
Absolutely. And the good thing about paid media is that if you figure it out, you have so much control over the lead flow. And you can slow down, you can scale whenever you need to. And we've actually, in our previous company, we were focused on a mixture of the two, both paid media and organic. The good thing about organic is that you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money on it. And it is kind of like, in a way, predictable. There's no fast growth there. You cannot scale within a month or a couple of months, but it is consistent and it's not going to spend a lot of money. While paid media, you can grow within a week or so, actually, if you do it right. So we've utilized Facebook ads, YouTube ads. In your case, is there a specific media channel that works with paid ads?
Meta ads, so Facebook, Instagram works well. There's other ones we've tested as well, like LinkedIn, for example. Terrible, because the cost per click's way too high.
Yeah.
But we have a fairly broad marketing mix. I think the key thing, though, that I've found is not it's not the paid media, it's what you do after that, right? So the two ends of the spectrum on Facebook ads, you could have an ad which is, this is what we do, this is how much it costs, do you want us to help you, yes or no? That's good, actually, right? And then on the other end, you've got, hey, sign up for this free 5-day email course and we're going to teach you this cool thing, right? That's good as well. That's going to be a lot cheaper, but you're going to get way less people who actually end up, booking a call to actually speak with you. This side's going to be way more expensive, but the people you get on the call, they're kind of ready to go. People talk about paid media and like running Facebook ads as you just like send people to a page and magic happens. I found, particularly for what we do in the coaching space, because it's not like, hey, buy this water bottle or go into this car dealership and buy a car. It's more kind of nebulous than that. And so you have to have a very clear process for getting people, because as soon as you talk about, hey, new job, right? We've spent a long time kind of wrestling with this, is you just get so many people that aren't a fit and they want free advice. They just want to have a chat. They even get offended when you're like, we'll help you find a job, but you have to pay because we're coaches. They're like, what? Why? That's ridiculous. You have to pay for this? We're like, yeah, we need to make money somehow, right? Because people are used to job boards and recruiters, and they don't understand that those business models don't have their best interest at heart, right? So there's a lot to deal with when it comes to this. But my view is that anything can work, right? It's just honing in on one thing. So yeah, Facebook ads is a perfect example for that.
Thank you. Thanks so much for explaining that. And so you're explaining basically you can target leads from directly in the bottom of the funnel. They are actually interested in what you have to offer. They have the need, but also know the product that or your service you're selling and want that. And then you have this other part of the spectrum which has the need but not yet is aware maybe, and just like a longer journey for them. So it all makes sense. And so right now, when thinking about the Ambitious Exec for the next 1 to 3 years, how do you see it? How do you see the future? Do you have any specific goals that you're working towards with the company?
Definitely. So, I mean, you said at the start, we've just appeared on the Inc. 5000 list at number 242, which I've actually got my little plaque is in the mail, so it's going to be behind me soon. But that was a nice achievement. Really, my goal and this is a longer term goal, and this is, so I have business goals, definitely revenue goals, team goals, profit goals is a big one at the moment. But really my mission, my mission goal is that, to me, to have a very strong career, which means high earning potential, fulfillment, impact, the things that people want, right? You have to be good at two things. And I talk about this all the time. I talk about it in my book. I do webinars. I talk about it. This is kind of the first thing I always say is, back in the 1950s, 1960s, the way you became, an exec was be really good at your job, right? Talk to the right people in your company, be good at your job. And if you do, by the time you're like 55, you might get to the executive level, right? That's how it used to work. Then early 1970s, executive recruiters started appearing because mobility started to be something that existed, right? There's no way back in the day that you would work for a company in New York and then transfer to a company in California or in a different, these kind of things just did it. Maybe like 1 out of 1,000 people would do it, right? Or even less than that, right? So executive recruiters started appearing in the 70s, and then in the mid 90s, we had job boards, right? And then the information explosion over the past 20 to 30 years means that now, on average, people that get to the executive level move 8 times during their career. So that's 8 times to get it right or wrong. So my mission is to help as many people as possible understand that not only do you need to be good at your job, your MBA, your experience, all these things, right? Important. But just as important is learning the skill of job searching effectively, particularly as an executive, right? It is as important, because if you're as good as someone else at your job, but you make 8 wrong moves, that other person is going to be a CTO or whatever else, right? And you're going to be stuck being a manager of whatever it might be, right? And they're making 800K more than you. And the only difference is because they knew how to find the right next role and you didn't. That's why it's so important. That's my big mission, personally and as an organization.
It's beautiful. And so right now, where do you see the main challenges with that? And actually, to break it down, to make it a little bit easier, because this was the bigger goal. So it might just be time for that. But like when thinking about the coaching business, or you refer to it as a consulting more, what is a challenge right now for you that you're trying to solve for next short term?
In the business itself, I think getting the balance right between acquisition and delivery, right? Because I'll be honest, and anyone listening to this who's like, oh, I'd like to be a client of this guy, right? One of my problems is focusing too much on client delivery. And I don't mean that in a bad way. What I mean is not making any money, or not making enough money as an organization to do the things that we want to do, because we're putting too much effort into over delivering for clients in a way that they don't need. And that's the key, right? So offering, for example, like offering too many workshops and one-on-one sessions, and people don't turn up because they don't need it, but we still have to pay our coaches for that time. So that's one of the things that we've been solving over the past 6 months, is how can we balance the perfect client journey where they get absolutely everything that they need, but there's no fat. We're not wasting time from a company perspective, which we have done in the past. That's a big thing that I've been working on, because what we found is we look at client happiness scores, client success scores very closely. So after every one-on-one interaction our clients have, we send them a survey, and then we review that data and we see, are our scores going up? Are they going down? Right. And so the goal is, how can we maintain and improve our scores? And, it's about a 92% client satisfaction rate, which I think is amazing for something which relies on it's not just us, it also relies on the other person. But it's how do we maintain that in the best possible way and improve it? And we have been improving it while delivering in the right way. And then I'd say the other side now for us is, how do we make sure that every single person that comes into what we do is aligned with what we do and how we do it, right? Because we don't have many people that drop out of our program. We don't have many bad reviews online. We've got 4.9 out of 5 rating for our online reviews, but there's still those like 2 or 3. I want that to be 0, right? So how do we make it's creating this machine so that someone comes in, and if they don't like what we do, that's fine, right? That's cool. But for the people that do, and I feel like we have an obligation to those people of, I want to make an extra 100K a year in this role at this big company. I don't know how to do it myself. Can you help me? Right? We have an obligation to help that person, even if they're trying to if they're like, oh, maybe I should do it myself. It's like, well, you've been trying to do it yourself for 6 months. It hasn't worked, right? Let us help you do it. And so getting that machine really incredibly well oiled, so we're only serving the right people who want our help and need our help, and we're serving them in the right way with our amazing team that we have. And people drop out the other end with amazing job offers, success stories, and all these other things. We're like not that far away from that right now, right? But like I said, it's I want our client success score to be 100%. I want our online reviews to be 5 out of 5 every single time. Like, we never have a review that isn't 5 out of 5. So that's we're kind of past the startup stage now as an organization. We're in the, how do we become incredible?
I love that. And I like the mindset that you have afterwards. So I feel like even now that it's 92% is amazing. And it could even mean that making that offer, cutting off the fat, making it more efficient, might even mean that you increase that percentage. So maybe offering too much could be slowing them down. Who knows? Like making it more efficient and easier to consume as a program could be even better to your advantage. So it is a very good area to focus on. And you said also the acquisition part of it. And in that side, is it because you're not focused too much on it, or is it because you want to fix the delivery first? And
so my fear with a growing business has always been, we bring people in and then they just don't get serviced or served. Service is a very good word. They don't get served well, right? And so my almost lopsided, this is good for clients, bad for business, which is, let's make our delivery amazing, pump all into making delivery as good as possible, and then we'll scale up acquisition to match how good delivery is. We've sometimes gone a bit too far in that direction. Like we've hired like all these amazing coaches and stuff, and then there's just not enough clients to service, and then it's upside down. And so it's more of a personal fear of mine. But like I said, now we've been doing this for a long time, and so we're in this place now where there's a really nice balance. We've got an amazing set of coaches, like Jill, our head of coaching, is just absolutely incredible. Chris, our VP of operations, he used to work at Accenture. He also coaches as well. Javier was like head of business development in Latin America for Apple. So like crazy experienced people that we have on our team, but we have the right people at the right levels doing the right things. And that's really what's working.
It is definitely a struggle that a lot of coaches who are in that certain part of scale where you are do face, like knowing when to scale up and when to scale down, depending on how team is doing. And hiring usually becomes kind of like the bottleneck at that point, because you might find it easy to scale and find clients since you're running ads, but then you'll have to know, like, do you have enough salespeople? Do you have enough coaches? Or in your case, maybe it could be the same position for both. I'm not sure. But yeah, we've found that having that balance, it's actually the key to getting to, at least for our coaches, getting beyond that $1 million in profit, is having a great balance between getting a consistent flow of qualified leads in your funnel, getting consistent flow of sales as well, and delivering great results consistently so that your brand continues to be on that 5-star, just like you mentioned. And so right now, and I wanted to ask you, and this goes to the research again, going a little bit outside of that topic, when it comes to investments that you've made on the Ambitious Exec, what have been some investments that you feel really good about, either you learned a lot or got a good return from? And what have been some investments that you would have preferred to have avoided, if there's any of those?
Software development is a bad investment, or has been for us. We've long wanted to build our own internal software, but we realized we're not a software company. And that's been a very interesting lesson. I think outside of that, there's been educational programs and masterminds and things that I've been in where some have been amazing and some have just not really been what we needed at that time.
Yeah, and we also were talking a little bit earlier about a software which you're about to launch, and I mentioned this on your intro as well. How does that fit into the Ambitious Exec? Is that something that, like, does it have any connection together, or is like a completely separate company?
Yeah, it's completely separate. There's some interaction, but it's pretty much completely separate. And this is Matchsticks. Essentially, what this is so the reason I talk about the Ambitious Exec is not a software company, but for Matchsticks, I've partnered with a guy who has exited 2 software companies already. And so we're co-founding it together, right? He's the tech expert. I'm not. I'm the career, the job market, the hiring market, talent development market expert. And also, I know how to get clients as well from having done it for so long. And so really, this is something separate, but it's something that I'm incredibly excited about, because it's really the problem with the job market, the problem with hiring for both for companies and people, candidates, is lack of information. I call it information blindness, right? Companies want the best candidates, but they don't know who is looking for a job or who is open right now, right? Candidates want to work for the best companies, but they don't know who companies are going to be hiring for in the next 3 to 6 months. They just know what's on a job board right now. They don't know what jobs have been passed to recruiters. They don't know what jobs are in the hiring manager's head, right? That haven't been put on paper, right? And we talk about the hidden job market. You mentioned that at the start. I don't really like the term hidden job market, because it makes it seem like there's some kind of like list in an underground bunker, and if you could just find the right key, you could unlock the door and you could get it, right? That's not true. What it is 80% of all opportunity. That's the stat that people wheel out. 80% of the opportunity has disappeared from the job market before it's ever advertised, because of referrals, networking, company pipeline, outreach from company recruiters to individuals who then get that job. There's no competitive hiring process. There's not 50 people being interviewed. There's one person that gets interviewed for one job, and they're the one that gets it. And that's a big problem. Matchsticks is looking to solve a few things in the marketplace, right? First of all, is I'm a candidate. Should I move jobs? Because that's really one of the big questions. Like, if I'm unemployed, and I have to do something. But for a lot of people, it's like, what's the best next move? What should I do? Should I move? Should I not? Right. And so the first part of this is, well, based on where you are right now, your skills, your experiences, your current compensation, right? What does the job market look like for you? We talk about things, higher ability score, right? Based on where you are right now, the type of role that you want to get, what's the likelihood that you're going to get it? Out of 100, right? So let's say I'm a VP of operations. I want to be a COO at this size of company. What's the chance that I'm going to be able to get that role, right? Is it 1 out of 100 or 99 out of 100? Because if it's 1 out of 100, what's the point? I need to do other things to get to that level first, right? What's my market value? Maybe I'm getting paid $100K a year, but actually everybody else is getting paid $380. I don't know that because information blindness, right? I don't know that right now. These are the things that we're going to reveal to people, right? So that's the first thing. And then sorry to cut you off, but it goes deeper than that. We're also career planning, right? I in the next 10 years, I want to make 500. I want to be a top level person, or I want to work at Google, or I want to work at a well-funded Series C startup or something. What do I need to do? How do I get there? Okay, well, based on 1 billion career trajectories that we have analyzed, you have to get an MBA. Because if you don't, you're never going to get to that place. And you need to do it in the next 3 years. Things like that information where it turns your career pathway from this like nebulous wishful thinking game into an actual plan that you can follow, right? And then we use AI coaching to help people to, what should I do right now? Well, these are the things that you should do. How should I improve my personal brand to actually appeal to Google or whoever it is? So that's kind of stage one. There's the big vision down the line is essentially removing the need for job boards, but I can talk about that on a later podcast.
Beautiful. I like that this is, instead of wishful thinking, just like you said, this is actually based on statistical data within your industry. It could be personalized to your journey. And so you can make decisions in a much more informed way, basically.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
And so my final question to you is, when it comes to coaches, just like yourself, who are trying to scale their impact, is there any final advice you'd like to give to these coaches? And it could be like an advice you'd give to yourself since you're doing the same.
Yeah, it's a good one. Good question. I think I don't want to give generic advice because because the thing about generic advice is it's usually true, right? And I think if you're running a decent sized business, nothing else really matters, because if you run out of cash or you're even close to it, it's not a good place to be, right? And so that's the trap that I've fallen into in the past. And then the baker versus bakery owner example before, right? As soon as you decide you want to start a career coaching business and not just you coaching people, you're not a career coach anymore. You're not a career consultant, right? Particularly when you've got, 30, 50 people on your team, you're probably never going to talk to a client ever again. So you have to be okay with that, because people who actually, I think there's a difference between people that want to coach and want to continue coaching, and you love coaching. You shouldn't create a big coaching business, right? Maybe you might have like a team of like 4 people and you serve a handful of clients every month, right? If you want to build something big, you're not going to be coaching. So I think it's good to know that up front, because if you get down the line, you're like, well, I'm making all this money, but I feel miserable because I'm not actually doing the thing that gives me the thing that I'm passionate about. I think those two things are super important. And then I think final piece of advice is you just have to concentrate on acquisition. Like nothing else really matters, and it goes back to the cash thing, right? If you can't get enough clients and you don't have a really robust system for attracting clients to what you do, nothing else really matters.
I love the different way of thinking. It goes back to the analogy you made earlier, which was you're a baker operating a bakery shop. You might be passionate about baking, but you're not really going to be baking anymore. You're going to be selling bread.
Yeah, Exactly.
So you have to think about that. And if that's really what you want to do, then go after it. If that's not, you could actually keep it small. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, James, for coming to our podcast today. For anyone who wants to connect with you or find you, they can go into LinkedIn, look up James Whitaker. They'll be able to find your profile. Is there also a website we can send people to?
Yeah, so theambitiousexec.com. That's the simplest way. Or connect with me on LinkedIn and, I'd love to chat.
Cool. We'll put that in the description and people will be able to find it. So thank you so much, James.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.